So people or public at large, they are the repository of all power and authority, and they share a part of their authority, that is kind of upward delegation. They share a part of their authority in favor of the government which they form. What does that mean? That the government is empowered so that it could carry out different kinds of activities, different kinds of functions to the benefit of society, to provide different kinds of goods and services. I mean, to look after development, welfare, security, and all such things.
So, grassroots advocacy. Grassroots advocacy is one of the many concepts, ideas, or the initiatives which have been taken in the past in different parts of the world, particularly in democratic and welfare state, so as to bridge the gap between the government on the one hand and society. With the nature of policy making and policy implementation. These are the basic functions. And policy making, policy implementation, these two activities and functions are not mutually exclusive. They are interdependent and interrelated. And in togetherness, they constitute one integrated cyclical process. Those who are formulating policies, they must be exposed to, or they must be aware of, the dynamics and the complexities associated with the implementation. And those who are involved in policy implementation, they must be very much clear regarding the real intent behind such policy, the basic idea and philosophy behind any policy or such policy which is going to be implemented. So policy making and policy implementation, up to this point is clear. Then in the course of evolution, what happens as the society, in the course of evolution of society, what happens, new developments keep taking place, the needs and aspirations of society keep rising, and accordingly the administration is expected to respond to the same. So what I mean to say, Administration operates in a society, and society is never static. Everything is constantly changing and it is evolving. So, in response to the rising needs and aspirations of society, administration is required. Administration is required to frame appropriate policies. Administration is required to establish new institutions and agencies to carry out different kind of activities and functions. So, what I mean to say, evolution of society is accompanied by a constant evolution of administrative system as well. It means when society was simple, administration was simple. When it's complex, then administration is much complex, because a conjunction has to be achieved between the aspirations and needs and expectations of society and the performance of administration on the other. So if there is a mismatch between the two, then that will lead to friction. So in ancient period when you have monarchical form of government, so when society was simple, administration was confined only to when there was monarchy and people were living a very simple life, it was an agrarian society. So administration was confined only to maintenance of law and order and collection of revenue, little bit of war management. But as the society has evolved, from agrarian to industrial society, from warfare state to we have today a modern democratic welfare state. So changes which have taken place from one form of government, one form of polity, one type of society to another kind of society. So that has registered its implications for the government as well. So that's why today, if you see the government machinery, it is so much complex. So many ministries and departments, agencies. You have ministries and departments and secretariat. Then you have tribunals. You have public corporations, and you have companies. Lot number of what I mean to say in nutshell, that government machinery has undergone mind-boggling structural differentiation and functional differentiation, structural expansion, elaboration accompanied by functional differentiation, different types of subsystems to carry out different kinds of activities and functions. Overall, things have become so much complex. So what is the outcome? On the one hand, we have achieved something that, we have gone for kind of a specialization, different institutions to provide different kinds of services. But over a period of time, it has made the entire system so much complex that the gap between politico-administrative system and the society at large, that has kept on increasing. Because the greater the expansion of the structure of administration, the greater the expansion, the more is the necessity to establish control and to exercise vigilance. So expansion of the structure has been accompanied by increase in the number of rules and procedures, elaborate rules and procedures, and all such things are there. So that has made the things very much complex for society. It means when the people in society, they are facing any kind of problem and they want their voice to be heard, and if they want to, and if they have to go through the rules and procedures and the system which have evolved over a long period of time, it takes a lot of time, money, energy, a lot of things are there. So that's why it has always been a part of you can say the struggle or the effort, to devise ways and means so that structural complexity does not inhibit the communication. Structural complexity of administration is not allowed to inhibit the process of communication between government and society. Amid all complexities, we should have some ways and means so that people could talk to the government directly, and the government could also respond to the same on various subject matters of day-to-day importance. Because everywhere and on every subject matter this is not possible, but in a large number of areas or those subject matters which affect the day-to-day life of the people, regarding those subject matters cannot we have some kind of direct communication. So this is known as grassroot advocacy. You have government, this is policy making, and public at large. Grassroot advocacy, the term itself expresses grassroot and the people at large. Grassroot advocacy, it means advocating for the cause of. Grassroot advocacy is about advocating for the cause of the society. The day-to-day, the problems of the society or the problems related to their fundamental rights or legal rights. So instead of going through the elaborate, the way you are going through the intermediaries, civil society and media, then you have other influencers, you convince influencers, the influencers, they influence the policy making in the government, and then the government, under such influence, government frames appropriate policies, and then through top-down approach, that policy is implemented and goods and services are provided to the society. This is an indirect way. Okay, so grassroots advocacy is about advocating for the cause of society. So people, some public spirited person, any public spirited person can advocate for the cause of the society. Problem related to public health or education, or it is women empowerment or protection of women, or for that matter promotion of the interest of children. So it is related to child development or women empowerment or environmental protection or public health or education. On all such subject matters cannot we have direct communication. So grassroots advocacy is about direct communication. It is about a campaign. Any public spirit person on behalf of the society can take up this matter to the government directly, instead of going through the indirect route. This will be far more efficient, far more effective, though it is not applicable on each and every subject matter of policy making. But as I said, that those subject matters which are related to day-to-day life of the people, and here it is possible, and this is possible thanks to digital infrastructure, thanks to the social media, thanks to various technology-driven ways and means by which the voice can be raised on behalf of the people. So they don't need to go through the intermediaries on behalf of the people. Any public spirit person can take up this matter through online petitions. Online petitions can be filed. Petitions can be sent to the government. Then digital campaign can be launched. Digital advertisements and ads can be launched. And similarly, signature collection. So some public spirit person, they collect the signature. So that imparts a consensual strain to the voice of the people. What is clear? So instead of going through the intermediaries, direct campaign, door-to-door canvassing, signature collection, digital campaign and online petition, these are the ways and means which have been facilitated in modern times because of technology, IT, information technology and digital infrastructure. All such things put together have facilitated the direct communication between the people at large, public at large, and the government. So these are the ways and means by which you influence the policy of the government. So you don't need any influencers, you don't need any intermediary. You talk to the government directly and you elicit best of the goods and services from the government institutions directly. This is something which is related to grassroots advocacy. So it is characterized by grassroots advocacy is characterized by bottom-up approach, direct communication and then the response. Okay. Then one more thing that you need to understand. One of the fundamental principles of communication is that the greater number of intermediaries, the sender of a communication and the receiver of a communication, the greater the number of intermediaries, the lesser the possibility of getting positive and the desirable response from the receiver. The greater the number of intermediaries, the more will be the transmission loss. ठीक है, कम्युनिकेशन एक छोटा सा कुछ, इतना छोटा सा सांप अगर निकल गया कहीं पे और ये बात आपको बतानी है, उसमें 2-3 इंटरमीडिएट्स अगर हैं, तो जब तक ये बात आपके घर तक पहुंचेगी, आपने किसी को बताया, उसने किसी और को बताया, तब तक वो एनाकोंडा बन चुका होगा. ठीक है, हर एक व्यक्ति उसमें कुछ एडिशन करेगा अपने नेचर के हिसाब से. कोई उससे बहुत छोटा ही बना सकता, कुछ भी नहीं था, मामूली था, और कोई उसे बहुत बड़ा बना देने के लिए. आमतौर पे इंसान के मन की प्रवृत्ति चीज़ों को बड़ा बनाने की होती है. तो ये एक प्रिंसिपल है कम्युनिकेशन का एक प्रिंसिपल है. द ग्रेटर द नंबर ऑफ इंटरमीडिएरीज बिटवीन द सेंडर एंड रिसीवर, द मोर द चांसेस ऑफ ट्रांसमिशन लॉस का मतलब, तो ओरिजिनल इंटेंट जो था, जो ओरिजिनल कंटेंट था, वो बिल्कुल वैसे ही उसी फॉर्म में वो रिसीवर तक नहीं पहुंचेगा. उसके बीच में बहुत सारी टेम्परिंग हो जाएगी. या तो उसको बहुत डाइल्यूट कर देंगे या उसको बहुत ज़्यादा मैग्नीफाई कर देंगे, बहुत ज़्यादा ग्लोरीफाई कर देंगे किसी चीज़ को। हर एक व्यक्ति अपने पर्सनालिटी के हिसाब से उसमें एडिशन करेगा, और ये बात डेमोक्रेसी पे भी एप्लीकेबल होती है। हर जगह पे डेमोक्रेसी में कई सब्जेक्ट मैटर्स पे द ग्रेटर द नंबर ऑफ इंटरमीडियरीज, यहाँ पे कैंपेन चल रहा है, लॉबिंग चल रही है, कुछ इंटरमीडियरीज है, तो सिविल सोसाइटी है, तो मीडिया है, तो कोई लॉयर्स ग्रुप है, तो इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं, सब मिलके फिर वो दोज हु आर proximate to the power centers, they influence the government institutions or the policy makers to frame an appropriate policy। ये बहुत लंबा रास्ता है। इसी में आप पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन भी फाइल कर सकते हैं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट को भी आप इनवाइट कर सकते हैं इंटरवेंट करने के लिए, बहुत सारी तरह की चीज़ें हैं। सो इस तरह के रास्ते से अगर आप जाते हैं तो इट विल टेक लॉट ऑफ टाइम, और उसके बाद अगर कन्विंस कर भी लेते हैं पॉलिसी मेकर्स को, थ्रू टॉप डाउन अप्रोच गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज आर प्रोवाइडेड, एंड इट मे नॉट ऑलवेज बी in the form and content, in the content form or the quality. It may not be what actually they were looking for, and it is because of the intermediaries, and then there is a direct communication. When direct communication takes place, then the policymakers, they come under a kind of moral pressure. So straight with the campaign is going on. Straight with the government, you address the government, institutions of the government. The online petition is there, open letter published in the newspapers or other places, and social media platforms being used, that you are asking some basic questions to the government, or you are expecting the government, you are asking the government to make intervention in such areas. You come well prepared, so it means you don't have too many intermediaries. You are talking to the government directly, institutions directly. So institutions come under huge moral pressure. Sometimes you create a compelling situation, circumstances for the political leadership to provide what is desirable. What is desirable? What's clear? So this is your grassroots advocacy, and there is an advantage, provided it is not misused. But this grassroots advocacy has certain advantage, that if there is a direct communication between the government and the people at large, and this kind of action takes place, the undesirable intermediaries will not be able to interfere in the process and to on the desirable path. So direct communication is there. What is being demanded, if it is possible, goods and services are provided, and that trust and confidence between the government and the society is so crucial for democracy. इसका एडवांटेज बहुत सारे एडवांटेज। द फर्स्ट इज द बेटर ट्रस्ट एंड कॉन्फिडेंस बिटवीन द गवर्नमेंट एंड सोसाइटी। तो व्हाट इज द रेलिवेंस? ट्रस्ट कॉन्फिडेंस का क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये है कि इफ यू हैव बेटर ट्रस्ट एंड कॉन्फिडेंस, इट बिकम्स ईजियर फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू ब्रिंग चेंजेस. You go for the change, you go for the reforms. Resistance comes to, resistance is what society resists the change and development. But if the government acquires, earns that trust and confidence, to that extent, the government gets a lot of space and room to go for the change and development. Resistance will not be so much. People have trust and confidence in the government. So, the government, it will be of the society. Trust and confidence. High level of trust and confidence because of bottom approach and grassroots advocacy. The relationship between the government and the society will be defined by trust and confidence, and it will have positive implications for reforms, change and development. Then low transmission loss. When the people are talking to the government directly, there is little transmission loss. Transmission loss समझ रहे हैं? यहाँ से यहाँ तक बात पहुँचते हुए इसमें से कुछ लॉस नहीं होगा, बहुत कम से कम लॉस या नो लॉस. और ट्रांसमिशन लॉस हो सकता है, बिल्कुल, अगर ये दूरी है, बहुत ज़्यादा दूरी है, इसमें कई सारे इंटरमीडियरीज हैं, तो इनकी बात को क्या से क्या बना देंगे. तो जिस फॉर्म में चाहते हैं, जो ओरिजिनल कंटेंट एग्जैक्ट, वो गवर्नमेंट के पास जाएगा बिना लाग लपेट के, और गवर्नमेंट को फिर वैसा काम करना पड़ेगा अगर वो पॉसिबल है. अगर ये इस फैसिलिटी को अगर वो मिस यूज़ अगर कर रहे हैं, तो फिर गवर्नमेंट भी एप्रोप्रिएट एक्शन ले सकती है. ठीक है, फिर पूरी सोसाइटी में डिबेट डिस्कशन चालू हो जाएगा. लेकिन इसकी अच्छी बात यह है कि इट बिगिंस एट वेरी स्मॉल लेवल, ग्रेजुअली व्हेन you convince, when you succeed in convincing the society at large, then it becomes a very potent force. Okay, very potent, huge force that it a kind of that exerts a kind of pressure on the government to bring desirable changes. Clear? And then you have so better trust and confidence, then low transmission loss, then strengthening of democratic values, democratization of governance, democratization of governance, democratization of democracy, democratization of bureaucracy. whenever we think of democratization, we think of a process. What kind of process? The process that tends to bridge the gap between the government or institutions of government and the society, or bureaucracy and the society. Democratization of governance, simply because it is a democracy and rule of law, independent judiciary, people enjoy fundamental rights. You cannot say democratization has taken place. Democratization, the soul of democracy lies not so much in the rule of law, not so much in the institutions. It lies in the kind of treatment which is given by given by the government to the society, the kind of treatment which is given to a person by the another person, the citizen to citizen and administration. What kind of treatment we met out to one another, that is the soul of democracy. Do we really respect the rights of the people? Do we really respect the sentiments of the people? Do we really show due respect to the larger collective interest of society? What is clear? That is the soul of democracy. So when you have grassroots advocacy, in practical terms, there are many advantages that you talk to the government directly and you get the desirable intervention, list of the wastage of time, money and resources. So you have with very efficient use of time, money and energy. Okay, so you get the action from the government, the desirable action from the government, and then it builds up trust and confidence. Then whatever subject matter that you raise, it comes in public domain. So for the education and awareness of society, it is important. Then other communities may also learn that if this kind of problem is there, we can talk to the government directly. So through online petitions, through signature campaign, digital campaign, door-to-door canvassing, so that strengthens the cause of democracy, that involve the people in the decision-making process. So you can say that it is quite efficient. With list of the inputs of time, money, energy, you get better services, and it strengthens the trust and confidence. And that trust and confidence is extremely essential in democracy for reforms, change and development, and create a very conducive environment. Once clear? And then transmission loss will be the least. But negative point is also there with grassroots democracy, that once the process begins and the government starts responding to the same, sometimes it happens that it appears that it's a case of grassroots advocacy, but a lot of manipulation can take place. Okay, so those who are pursuing this case, they are among the people. They appear to be genuinely interested. Somebody has to come out, somebody has to lead, but some kind of private interest may remain hidden. Okay, which later on you may come to know, but this is possible. Then again, it also leads to rising expectation of society. Sometimes it may happen that society would start, there is a possibility that society would start expecting that on each and every subject matter, they should be given an opportunity to express their view and opinion. So there may be more, there is a possibility of there being more aspirational. Okay, so on those subject matter, on every now and then on a new subject matter, or there's sometimes their action may be politically motivated. We have seen in the past it has happened that the signature campaign is going on. So 500 bureaucrats, 300 retired judges, judges and bureaucrats, they have signed a petition to the CGI. This should be done, this should not be done, and sometimes it is found that those bureaucrats are of a particular kind of political affiliation or inclination. Something like this may happen. This is a negative point. But these days things cannot remain hidden for long. If there is something politically motivated or some kind of manipulation is there, it gets exposed. ठीक है, तो आज का दौर कुछ और है. अब बहुत सारे कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट्स घूम रहे हैं जो किसी चैनल के साथ जुड़े नहीं हैं. मोबाइल फ़ोन सबके पास है, रिकॉर्ड वहीं कर लेते हैं. कौन किसकी कहाँ पोल खोल देगा ये पता नहीं. आप तो गए कैंपेन करने, लॉन्च करने, बड़े हीरो बन रहे थे. 2 दिन बाद कोई आ गया, उसने आपका पड़ोसी है, उसने सारी बात बता दी. ये एक नंबर का बदमाश आदमी है, लोगों को भड़काता है, ऐसे कैंपेन करता है, कई तरह की चीज़ें आज के समय में. तो इसलिए क्या है कि इसके नेगेटिव और पॉजिटिव दोनों साइड है. ये आपकी हो गई ग्रासरूट एडवोकेसी. ग्रासरूट एडवोकेसी का मतलब ये है कि यू आर इन्फ्लुएंसिंग द गवर्नमेंट डायरेक्टली एंड यू आर गेटिंग डिजायरेबल सर्विसेज. ठीक है. और जो इनडायरेक्ट वे जो है, दिस इज द इनडायरेक्ट वे that you approach through intermediaries influencers, they affect the government, and then with top-down approach, the goods and services come to you. So it's a long-drawn process. Transmission loss may be there, okay? And what you finally get, it may be at variance with what you are actually looking for. A lot of tampering can take place here, and this is the direct way. This is possible. It has become possible because of mainly because of we have social media platform, and we have good digital infrastructure, information technology tools, and all techniques, all such things are available. Tools and technology which are available because of IT. So this has become possible. So technology and technique, method, process, all such things can be made use of to strengthen our democracy. So all such things, we tend to all such things, whether it comes through technology or it comes through other tools or technology or techniques or some other kind of creative idea, whatever thing is required. If you succeed in bridging the gap between the government and society, nothing like it. It strengthens the cause of democracy. People should be made to feel that those who are framing policies and those who are in the government, they are an integral part of the society. They do not constitute a separate society, the elite class or something else. So that organic connectedness has to be strengthened. Okay, so democracy is also all about that kind of cyclical process. The efficiency of this cyclical process is actually the quality of democracy. Point clear? Or this is the indirect way, as I discussed earlier. This is also known as, this one is known as grassroots democracy. Grassroots advocacy, sorry. Grassroots advocacy, and this is your grassroots advocacy versus opposite. This is the direct way and grassroots advocacy the indirect way. Indirect way. तो ये diagram clear ना चाहिए. ये public at large, ये influencers के through आ रहे हैं. Influencers they affect the policy making in the government, and then the with top down approach. यहाँ जो decide होगा then things come here. Or this is the grassroots advocacy, straight way, directly. The people, they are talking to the government directly and they are getting the desirable services. So, grassroots advocacy. Okay? And regarding all these things, one fundamental principle of communication that I discussed, the possibility of favorable response, the possibility of a favorable or positive response from the receiver in case of communication, receiver is inversely proportional to the distance it travels. ये सिद्धांत है मैं पाकर फॉलोड का, ठीक है. The possibilities of getting a positive response from the receiver to any communication is inversely proportional to the distance it travels. The greater the distance, the lesser the possibility of positive response, and the shorter the distance, the greater the possibility of getting positive response. There are other conditions as well, but this is one of the principles of communication. So again, same applies to democracy, because society is constantly evolving in the course of time. Our administrative system, political administrative system has become very much complex. It's structurally huge, complex and functionally differentiated. So in this process, sometimes it happens that the voice of the people, it fails to reach. Voice of the people fail to reach to the government. So the gap has to be bridged through one other ways and means. It does not mean that we don't need structure, method, technique, process, rules, regulation, procedure. All such things are required. But regarding certain issues, certain subject matters, we need to devise ways and means where we could talk to them directly. But structure should not end up becoming a liability. We have to derive net advantage. Net advantage. You have developed structure so as to bring regularity and discipline and predictability in the administrative behavior, but at the same time you have ensured that that structure should not end up becoming a liability in so far as protecting the soul of democracy is concerned. And soul of democracy is that the representatives of the people, the government is in constant touch with the people at large. That's the point. I hope it's clear. Grassroots advocacy. Okay, thank you.